1, 2. Hello, welcome. Meaningful Times with Friends. We are back. This is episode 25, quarter length to 100. We are on our way. Racking up the numbers, but it's great to see everybody. Some newly dubbed names in our group here. We have Jason, the Art Lord. Wait, did you just change it back? No. Why did you change it back? No,
because it looked like I did it, and I can't call myself.
No, we will state for the record, you did not do this. This is group conscience making this. Jason, the Art Lord. He is our dubbed Art Lord. This is not his call. He did not name himself this. We named him. He's our Art Lord. No Politics Nathan, which is a play on politics. It's not a long story, but Nate said it before. No politics, non-politics, and Nathan accidentally stumbled onto a great alternate term, and that's politics. Thanks to a typo.
So, the best typos, make the best nicknames for sure.
So he is now No Politics Nathan. Spoolie D, Spoolie Dizzle in the hizzle, and he's here as well. So, and I'm Mean Dave. Welcome. Thanks for coming back. We have off the top, usually we start off with apologies. Did we have any apologies this week?
Yeah, I have one.
Okay.
I do too.
My goodness, man. I thought we were going to be apology free this week, but no. All right. Let's get
to repenting.
Yeah. So no, I want to say that I'm sorry to Jason the Art Lord for all the shit that I talked in the lead up to our last episode. I didn't mean any offense. I was taking the piss out of shit that you truly hold dear. You're a good friend of mine. I've known you for a very long time. And so truly from the bottom of my heart, I apologize for kind of digging in on all that stuff. And I mean that.
I mean, you talk about poetry.
Yeah.
Correct? Yeah, poetry.
Yep, that's it.
Poetry, please. Subject of last episode.
Yeah.
Cool.
It was a lot of bullshit that got talked. And so, I didn't want to come off as overly harsh.
This is what friendship's all about right here, you know?
Yeah. Publicly apologizing instead of just saying, hey, what's up? I'm sorry.
You apologized in the episode, I think, a little bit as well. But, here we have just a sincere apology. This is great. Good stuff. All right, next apology.
All right. In episode 20, I attempted, as a selfless act of altruism and public servitude, to present some well-researched facts regarding your federal and state government's desire to completely transition to electric vehicles. I brought up such cogent points like how inconvenient it was to charge, how the electric grid could not support that many EVs compassionately, or at least I thought, how this would disenfranchise lower-income drivers. EVs are expensive, and you really need to have a house with dedicated parking to make it sustainable. Geez, Spoolie, thanks for the solid, pal. I'll think twice before shelling out $50 to $120K and write my congressman and give him a heads up about this new and helpful information I have. And I was mocked. Personally attacked, and then mocked again. I asked Dave if I could defend myself for a mild fact-based rebuttal. Dave's response? More mockery. Mock, friends of meaningful times of friends. A bit of news dropped this week, and to show my humility, I would like to share it with you all. A McKinsey & Company study of over 37,000 EV owners worldwide and over 4,000 Americans resulted in 46% of American EV owners said that they would want to switch back to gas-powered cars. Why? Lack of infrastructure making it inconvenient to find charging stations. Number 2, affordability. This is coming from people with enough money to have purchased EVs in the first place. Almost half of the tree-hugging, Gaia-worshipping rich people can't afford an EV. What about those less materially fortunate? Now add in the rest of the country who never wanted one in the first place, and what you get is another Spoolie D. Will you thank me for this update? Of course not. I expect nothing more than to be deluged with more baseless personal attacks and incessant mockery. And for that, I am deeply sorry.
I don't understand how that was an apology. It didn't seem like an apology. That was more of an I told you so in long form with the I'm sorry at the end. That didn't make any sense.
It was a gloat apology?
Yeah, it was a humble brag, as the kids like to say.
Without the humble. Yeah, I mean, Nathan went with the more traditional apology, kind of the out-of-the-box, like, standard issue. I went with the more meandering...
apology. All I know is I'm going to have to use time-lapse editing for that apology. More
mockery.
Most likely. Yeah, more mockery. But I do have a different thing to add. This week we have something, a little new thing I want to call props. I want to give props to oddly enough, to Spoolie D for our during our science discussion, where one of the points that he made, which was a good one, is when science that gets brought up that is accepted as gospel fact becomes policy. And one of the key kind of moments in history that's been recent that this brought was COVID. COVID was an example of this, and not once did Spooley ever resort to dragging the very debatable aspects of COVID into the discussion. So I want to give props to Spooley for kind of a woke move. I want to say there's a little woke aspect to that, just being conscientious. I think being just a little aware of what could go wrong. He was being mindful of the podcast itself and didn't want to cause anything to get flagged on YouTube and whatnot. So props to Spooley for completely avoiding COVID in his discussion.
And props to Nathan for completely avoiding COVID, period.
Knocking on wood.
Oh, you haven't gotten COVID yet?
That I know of. I mean, it's entirely possible I could have had it many times and been asymptomatic or something. But yeah.
Benign COVID. All right. Well, cool. Well, you see. So props. It's our new little addition to it. All right. Moving on. In our discussion, we've been trying to figure out a kind of a lead topic to start off the show, and the topic that I thought would be a little more light in this regard, based on just a few lines in our chat. First topic is God. Whether you believe in him or not, believe in it or not, believe in her or not, just the subject of God and or atheism. It came up basically very briefly, albeit in the chat, was I shared an image that came from the Swans fan page, a drawing of a young child. The saying said, "Become what you believe, become nothing." And then in response to that, it was either Jason or Nathan kicked off saying something or like, "That's why I'm an atheist," or just referring to the fact that they were atheists. And then I stated my thought of it where I said, I don't really know. I'm open to whatever happens. I also work a 12-step program, which requires an aspect of a higher power. So I thought we'd go around, kind of just discuss our feelings on God or the lack thereof. A real light subject. So let's start with our least speaking member, but most artistic.
Well, I don't know. I don't begrudge anybody their beliefs. I definitely think that anybody's allowed to think whatever they want. I used to be a lot more judgmental about it, but I realized that I was just being an asshole. So I don't believe in God, but you're welcome to if that's your thing. Right on. I'm not going to kink shame. When I was a kid, I used to go to church with my parents, and then I kind of told them tentatively one day, I don't think that I really believe in this stuff. So they still made me go to church, but I didn't have to stand up or sit down or kneel down for prayer, So, I don't know. I've read some of the Bible, and I don't know. It doesn't work for me. I don't really need to feel like there is a higher power in charge of things, and I don't need to feel like there is a greater reward after I die and all that. I feel like we're here and we make the most of what we can while we're here, and after that we rot. And we've talked about this before. So yeah, I don't know. I don't want to repeat myself too much, but
that was in relation to death, though. Something that's very real.
A lot of religion is about dealing with the pains of life, because that after you die, you're going to get something. You're going to go to, paradise or whatever. And I think all that is silly, but I'm not going to argue with people about their belief otherwise. So.
And again, distinguishing, there's God and then there's religion. We'll get to some of all that. But you brought up something. You've read the Bible on a scale of 1 to 10 on the Art Lord scale. How is the Bible as an artistic work?
It's incredibly difficult to read because it's so archaic, and it's just more trouble than it's worth, I think.
Okay. So
I wouldn't call it a manual for behavior or anything.
So you prefer to read Burroughs? You find Burroughs to be more distinguished?
Give me some Burroughs. give me some J.G. Ballard,
Okay. All right, cool. Got that.
Interesting. Both my parents were raised very strictly with their respective religions. They're from very different backgrounds. My dad is he was born in Texas. My dad's family was hardcore, like Southern Methodist, but because everything in the South is segregated, they were in a Mexican Southern Methodist church. They moved to San Jose when my dad was a baby to start a Methodist church in San Jose. And it dominated my dad's life. My mom was, raised in the Armenian church. Both my parents rejected that when they became adults, and I was raised with zero religion in my house. And my first exposure to religion, or God at least, was when I'd spend the night with my next door neighbor's house. And part of the deal of spending the night over there was that I would have to go to church with them in the morning. So my first real exposure to anything religion related was through the Catholic Church. And immediately as like a 8-year-old, I was like, this is some bullshit. Like, I don't, like, as a small child, I was like, I don't buy it. And to me, even as a kid, I was like, I get it. People are afraid that they're going to die one day, so they want to believe that there's something else out there for them. That's always been my belief up until now. In 50 years of life, I haven't experienced anything that would make me believe in, the version where there's this God, he's in a white flowing robe, and he's probably a white guy, and he has a book, and he's like, oh, yeah, you get to come in, or you fucking jacked off too many times, you're going to hell. There's that version of God, or there's, man, there's energies out there, dude, and when you die, it leaves your body and becomes one with the other. I don't buy any of that fucking shit. So, I mean, and to be perfectly honest, I wish I did. I think life, if you genuinely believe that stuff, is probably a lot easier. You think that like death isn't going to be this permanent state. There's something else out there for you. So, yeah, that's essentially where I fall on the whole God thing.
I like how your second take of the God is clearly a Grateful Dead God.
It kind of does exist in that witchcraft crystal realm, man. For sure. Yeah, dude, it's just energy, bro.
Also, you missed your opportunity to refer to your Mexican Southern Methodist as Southern Methodist. So I just want to.
I like that. That's as good as politics.
Spoolie D has a question. My bad.
Okay, go ahead.
So if it's the neighbor I'm thinking of, did all that going to church, didn't that just result in you guys sucking each other's dicks?
Essentially, yeah.
All right.
Bro. Yeah, you know how the Catholic Church rolls, though. If it ain't the priest sucking each other's dicks, it's somebody.
Glad we cleared that up. So, Spoolie D.
So I grew up with you guys in York, which I think we can all agree it's a fairly godless town. Even if you guys remember, I think it was the Holy Redeemer. The church is on, I can't remember where it was. It was either on Cedar and York Boulevard, like everything else.
It's on Cedar.
But the priest got arrested, I want to say maybe 25 years ago, for like oiling up like special needs, like parishioners, and like helping them masturbate. You guys don't remember this? It was fairly public, but it was funny because, and you can block the name out.
That's a huge bitch.
Went there, and she was telling me, I think this actually happened when we were in high school still, that like that guy gave her the creeps, and she asked her mom to stop going to church. And had she like stayed in there and got another couple of chromosomes, it could have ended pretty badly for her. So that was kind of the start of it. And then you can talk about my saga with my stepdad later, but I ended up at a Lutheran college freshman year. And I started dating this girl who went to church 4 times a week. She was a religion major. And that was pretty interesting because, I started asking her, like, what, like, explain this to me. You spend a lot of time with this person, someone that religious, but like every other aspect, like we grew up thinking that religious people were a little bit off, and like Jason, I mean, my assholeness didn't like isolate itself to religion, but I was a condescending, militant atheist dickwad back in the day. And then I started dating this girl for like a year, and she was just like explaining to me, like, it's a feeling. It's not really like a logic. It's just something that I know to be true in my heart kind of thing. And I was like, oh, that's interesting. Oh, that's what faith means. Because you really like, we grew up in this echo chamber. We all kind of like, were super anti like authority, anti-establishment, anti like pretty much everything.
Anti-bullshit. No.
Yeah. And so having that perspective from that girl was like a good data point, but I continued on my atheist path. And then at some point, I don't know, you start really thinking through things, and like the idea of being an atheist versus agnostic, or being like questioning or like whatever, that's where it became more of, it just seemed more like militant, willful ignorance versus saying like, if you guys have come to your conclusion, that's fine. You guys are obviously not pushing on it. But there was a certain point like in California where I saw billboards like advertising atheism. And it's like, you guys don't know. Like at best, you don't know. Like you can say this is bullshit, it doesn't pass muster and it doesn't make sense to you. That's completely fine. But to like be that insistent on something you absolutely cannot know, that made no sense to me. And so, kind of in conclusion, where I am now is I think things are plausible. I don't think a lot of the religions are literal. They're all very similar, but like from a literal standpoint, they're different in a lot of ways. They reference each other a lot, but I think it could be like what Nathan was talking about, where like man's search for meaning and like something from beyond. But I think what I believe is there's powers greater than us. There's senses that we haven't fully developed, and maybe that is God. Maybe that's just other like supersensory forces in the universe. Maybe it's energy. Maybe it's us generating the energy. Maybe it's the universe. Maybe it's a God. I don't know, and I know it's kind of uncharacteristic for me, but it's really just trying to keep an infinitely open mind because I just honestly don't know, and I respect everybody's, like Jason said, I respect everyone else's beliefs until you start jumping into my space and trying to make me believe stuff I don't.
Until it becomes policy.
Well, yeah, no, absolutely. Just like leave us alone.
Yeah. One thing I think in all three of your takes on it, you can't help but intertwine. There's the subject of God and the subject of religion. I think the way we're raised in this country and all that, it's part of this. It's systemic to intertwine those. I don't think you could really grow up in America and in any part of it and not run into some, either whether it's in your family or it's with family in your community, you'll run across somebody who is part of some religion and have some level of exposure to it. Myself, I grew up and went to churches, primarily Catholic on my dad's side. I believe I'm baptized Catholic. I remember hearing about catechism when I was a kid. I never got involved in that. My mom was somebody, she was, I don't even know, there's Episcopalian. I think there was some aspect of that. And all of these religions just sounded like flavors of soda. None of it ever gave me an understanding of what I now come to think of as God or a higher power or whatever, and that's the spirituality aspect. A lot of it all is archaic ritual. I remember going to Mass when I went for, Catholic Mass, and it was like Simon Says. There's parts of it where where you're sitting down, then you stand up, then you sit down, then you stand up again. Oh, and now you get on your knees. Now it's back to sitting down. Now, and then when we got to the wafers, when they were all eating the sacrament, that's when I was like, all right, we got 15 minutes left. We're almost home free. So I had it clocked because my religion was cartoons. And cartoons were on Sunday mornings too, not just Saturday mornings. And this was cutting into my cartoon time. I had no interest in the religion and really a thought of God. I'm like, I just kind of was like, yeah, there's a God. I don't know much about it. I think it hates me, or it definitely likes to laugh at me, just based on my experience. Just my general feeling of just mistrust of adults and just overall feeling of how the world felt. That was my understanding of it as a child growing up. And then you get into, music and other stuff and whatnot. But coming to understand, like, whatever this God concept, I didn't get into any aspect of it and what faith really was. I didn't understand it at all until I actually got into 12-step recovery and had to practice this process. That part of it, even if you're an atheist, requires the use of an acceptance or some aspect of a higher power. That does not mean that it's some force, invisible force, or a spirit in the sky, any of that shit. You can be a hardline atheist and still have a higher power, as we would describe it in literal terms. If you need a higher power without any aspect of proof, the higher power for you is the group. It's just the group that's there, the literal people that are there, that's greater than you, that wants to help you get clean and sober. And as a newcomer, there's unconditional love there for the most part that I've found for whenever newcomers come in, and I'm part of that process as well. Since that time of working this program, what I didn't understand at the time when I started, but in a Karate Kid method this is what I've described in meetings. The 12 steps to me is just the process of Ralph Macchio learning karate. He's doing chores, but he has to do them a specific way, and he doesn't understand why. His teacher's like, oh, you want to learn karate? Well, first you paint a house, you paint the fence, You wax on, you wax off, you sand the floor. You're doing all these things, but you have to do it a specific way. And he doesn't understand why. He has no idea. He's like, I wanted to learn karate, and you got me doing fucking chores. And at some point, when he gets frustrated, he then confronts Miyagi, and he's like, I wanted to learn karate. You got me doing all this stupid shit. And then he's like, oh, you think you haven't been learning karate? Show me this. And then he shows him in practice what he's been learning.
You know, if you have those meetings at the Holy Redeemer in New York, it would be the newer version with Jaden Smith, where Jackie Chan's yelling at him, jack it off, jack it off, jack it off.
Gotcha. Yeah, that's a good joke. The point being, though, is that what in the end, what this process taught me was that I ended up developing a sense of faith in the unknown, because that's something I didn't have before. I always was just thinking everything was just a setup to disappointment. We're all just killing time to death. And I still suffer with that kind of line of thinking, because I have this, disease of self-centeredness and, compulsive cynicism and all of that. What the process did was give me a sense of faith in just what is unknown. That's all it is. My simplicity that I boil it down to is I just get through a day without drinking, without using drugs, and I'll be okay. And also I do these things to help rid myself of character defects. And it's a process. It's not something that I'm ever cured of or whatever. And through this process, somehow I came into a practice of accepting that there's a higher power greater than myself that loves me. That's the hardest part of kind of this process, because I have also a compulsive voice in my head that's just like, you ain't good enough, you suck, you're this, you're that. It's all the negativity that it's like a bully in your brain that just lives in your brain. And so through this process, that gets lessened, and I get into prayer, not for myself, but every now and then you probably pray for yourself, obviously, just being human. But it's more just praying for others, for the world, a gratitude, a sense of gratitude to whatever's out there. And I don't know what that is. And kind of what was brought to the point earlier, I think it has more to do with some aspect of energy in this world, and less to do with these concepts that are drawn from it that clearly have agendas of organization, agendas of that are financial, and that's what unfortunately religion gets twisted up in. And there are people who are part of religions that use it in this very same way. That's personal. But then again, kind of what was brought up with the science topic, when that aspect of religion starts getting intertwined with public policy, you get a lot of the same behaviors that Spoolie D is very turned off by, and I think all of us are turned off by. And, as much as you see these atheism signs in this part of the world, you go across America, how many signs do you see that are always Jesus, and they have billboards advertising, Christ and religions and whatnot, every bit as much, probably more so than you would see for atheism. But either way, that's advertising. And what I love about our program is we say it's attraction rather than promotion, in that it should be the characteristics of it. You make it attractive through your actions, and less through me telling you, no, this is what's what, this is how it is, and this whatever, because now you're just hearing preaching.
I don't understand the promotion of a non-belief through bumper stickers proclaiming oneself atheist. I've had religious people in the past, people who see everything through the lens of their faith, kind of ask me, like, you're an atheist. Does that mean you go to groups where people talk about how they don't believe in God, or is there some sort of atheist community? And it's like, nah, I just don't believe in God. And so it's weird to me that people try to take a non-belief in something and impose like religious structures upon it. Do you know what I'm talking about?
You know what it is, though? It's just tribalism, similar to sports team tribalism. I mean, what it is, it's like, this is my team, I'm team atheism, and that's I think more of an inherent American quality. We in this country, for some reason, think that just that we need to commercialize every aspect of our identities. And I'm team this, you're team that, then therefore we must battle. And it's like, no, you don't have to.
You're right, Dave. It manifests itself pretty much in every aspect of life. And the problem with that, whether it's religion, whether it's politics, whether it's
science,
sports, science, sports, when it starts getting tribal like that, the critical thinking goes away, and you're just like glomming onto your tribe. And that's the insidiousness of that. I mean, that's why I quit watching sports altogether, because it's mindless.
Well, so are bumper stickers, right? Because who changes their mind based on a bumper sticker? oh, fuck, this guy is an atheist? Huh. Maybe I should look into what his bumper sticker's all about. I mean, it's just, it's dumb.
Well, I'll be perfectly honest. I didn't really go woke until I saw a coexist bumper sticker. I saw that and I said, look at that. Those letters, all different religions. And they're on that bumper sticker together in harmony, about to be rear-ended by me. Art Lord, as you can see, is Team Silence. Yeah.
That's the beauty. That's the beauty of atheism, is that you don't have to discuss the fucking deeper meanings of shit.
That's a running joke in a lot of it's a very hack line in matter of respect. Is that one of those good friends of mine who has a joke about atheism, and that the difference between, I forget what it was in atheism, is that atheists won't shut the fuck up about it. Sort of like the same characteristic as vegans. So you kind of are a unicorn in the atheism.
I like the geisha girl response to being called hack. That's the best response I've ever seen.
I didn't call him a hack. I said it's a hack line about atheists that they won't shut the fuck up about it.
I feel like it's the Art Lord who gets to decide what's hack and what's not.
You are treating me with way too much power.
As a good Art Lord would deem. I like that. I like reluctant to be responsible.
He's a fair and just Art Lord.
Yeah. I'm right. Benevolent. And not only that, we've had a long history of our species of having different gods. You know, and there's the Greek gods, which are kind of like the Marvel Cinematic Universe, one of which is Thor, in case anybody really needs to know. And then you move on where, you know, you have native tribes and cultures where, you know, some of them, their gods are literally the earth, the sun. I would want to say practical gods, if you will, which are technically powers greater than ourselves that we are at the mercy of. You know, the earth demonstrates its might over us on a regular basis. You don't have to be a scientist to get whipped away by a tornado or have your house rocked by an earthquake. And currently we're all burning away from the sun.
Or at least you and I are raw dogging it without sunblock.
Yeah. You know, we're literally being burned and cooked to a crisp. We are turning very much into that Twilight Zone episode because they're all actually slowly living in increasing heat. That was a good episode. Cool. Well, thank you for engaging in that reluctant discussion. Like, it is a lighter topic for us because it's not. None of us are sitting here hardline like, no, you're full of shit. You better believe in some kind of. You got chickens. What do you think, man? They came from nothing. They came from eggs. And, you know, whatever. I don't know. There's no beef here.
Just chickens.
Yeah. All right. So moving on to the next topic, which is it is a lighter topic a little bit, but it inspires more aggression. Bam. It is product crazes.
All right. So, like a lot of topics that get introduced on our show, it's born out of a gripe for sure. So some background on this. Ever since COVID happened, I started going to the grocery store first thing in the morning. So like I always get to Trader Joe's at 8, right when they open. I want to be still around as few people as possible if I can be. So I don't know, this was like a month ago maybe or so. I got to Trader Joe's right when they opened, and there is this giant line that is formed outside of Trader Joe's. Now, if you're familiar with the Fremont Hub and you know where the Popeyes chicken is in relation to where Trader Joe's is, you fucking know how long that goddamn line is. And so I pulled up, and I had just like had a couple cups of tea. I rolled out to the grocery store, and I hadn't looked at the news at all. So I'm not even kidding you, I had a legit panic attack. I was like, what the fuck is happening right now? Are we back to this shit where we have to fucking get in line for groceries again? Fucking freaking the fuck out. Like, and so I get out of my car, and I walk up to the first guy in the line, and I go, what is this? What's going on? And he goes, the bags, man. What the fuck are you talking? The bags? And he goes, yeah, we're all here for the bags. And I just look at the line, and I was like, okay. And I didn't bother to ask him what he meant, what the bags were. And so immediately, of course, I get in my car, and I start texting you assholes about this. And like, I was just like, so what's the deal with these bags right now? And so apparently, there's these bags that Trader Joe's sells that have become this hot commodity where some of them are insulated bags, some of them are mini bags, and people get in line and buy them for themselves, obviously, but also some people flip them online for as much as $100 each. And the whole thing was perplexing to me because I don't see any inherent value in a shopping bag from Trader Joe's. I kind of don't begrudge the people that are standing in line because they want to sell the bags and make some money. It's more the people that are genuinely standing in line because they want these objects, like, you know, people getting in line for sneakers or for what are those water bottles that people were going crazy about? What's that brand?
Stanley Cups.
Stanley Cups. So yeah, that's basically the root of where this topic comes from, is from that experience and sort of my bewilderment at people attaching some sort of value to these objects.
Word.
The thing that's funny about, in particular, about the Trader, like I can understand like wanting a good insulated cup because, you know, I'm constantly drinking. I carry this thing around with me all over the place. I have to constantly drink water for my health and for, you know, for various reasons. So you know, it's handy to me to have this bottle that's insulated and it keeps the water cool, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And that's big enough to where I'm actually getting some use out of it. It's not so small that, you know, it's the right size for me, et cetera. Now, the thing about the Trader Joe's bags, though, that I think is really funny is that these things are too small to be actually practically useful. Initially, they came out with these little canvas tote bag things that you could barely fit anything into. And then the new bags that people were lining up for when Nathan was there are the insulated bags, like little tiny insulated bags. You could fit like 2 half-liter bottles of water in it, and that's it. Like you could barely put anything in this stupid thing. They were so tiny. They were more cute than useful. And so the fact that people were absolutely bonkers for them is beyond me. I don't understand it at all because they weren't expensive. I mean, I'll give them that. They weren't expensive. Like Stanley Cups, those things are super expensive. And so when people are tackling each other to try to get to them first and like jumping over counters to like get at the displays and everything, it's just like people are out of their minds. I don't understand this obsession with product crazes at all.
So in doing what you do, have you had a chance to like ask anybody like why they want these things?
Mostly because they saw it on Instagram. I mean, that seems like the primary driver of this kind of behavior is they see it on Instagram or somewhere on social media, and people say, I'm excited about this. And they say, so then they see people saying they're excited about it and they go, well, then I guess I'm supposed to be excited about it too. And it just kind of, it's, you know, your typical trend shit, basically.
Hype. I mean, we're a culture of hype.
Yeah.
A lot of hype around everything. And we have hype even in our own lives, our own worlds. We look forward to a band, you know, a band's album coming out. We might, you know, a t-shirt, just, you know, we all kind of, I think it's again, another byproduct of our culture. Spoolie.
Yeah, but I think the band thing is like, for the most part, you like the music or some aspect of the music. It's an homage or some sort of branding. I mean, I don't wear any band stuff, but at least there's something like of substance attached to it. I mean, I think that's a great place. If I had a religion, like I would recruit in those lines because those people are clearly missing something in their soul. They're trying to fill with cups and totes. Like just these like garbage tchotchkes, like the whole Beanie Baby craze. Like it's just like these weird like pseudo like valuations. Like they just attribute value to it. They say there's value to it, and then it's like a sugar high. Like people are just going and getting this thing, and they have this thing, and then until it wears off, and then where's the next sugar high? Like I think it's a pretty scary aspect of our culture where you can just deem something like that cup. It's just a freaking mug. That's all. It's like an unremarkable mug at that, and people went crazy for that. These tote bags, like. Any of these things, it's really, I think, and this is, I'm obviously going on a limb here, but I think it's trying to like fill a hole in people's souls and like try and paper over and patch up a deep and abiding sadness in them. You know, not to go too deep into this, but like what, like seriously, why are you doing that? Why would you wait? Like, it's one thing to be like, oh, this is cool, I'll have one for free, but to wait in line for like a piece of garbage, like that's diagnosable, man. That's like, you either need to find God or get on some SSRIs or both or just alternate. But anyways, I think it's a symptom of a greater disease. It's like consumerism that's gone into like this sad thing. It's like, you know, like maybe you when you're a kid and porn's not that prevalent and you find your first porno and it makes you excited and you're spanking it, you know, and then versus like you're on like day 9 of like 5 times a day. Like that's where these guys are with their compulsive like junk. They're just trying to do it, you know. Or if like I don't know this personally, but if you're in your 50th canister of nitrous in a row, it doesn't feel as good as the first two. You're just trying to regain that feeling. It's like anything that happens with opioids. It happens with a lot of drugs where you just gain this tolerance, and now it's just this sad like compulsion that you're trying to fill. So yeah, those people need Jesus.
Well, it's funny. I mean, you're joking, but also if you think about it, it is somewhat the sacrament of the religion of capitalism in many respects, because it's been here in some form since even before we were born. The most ridiculous of them was in the 70s, the pet rock. I mean, you were literally sold a rock with projecting the anthropomorphism of a pet onto a rock. And then we grew up in the age of Cabbage Patch Kids and even the subsequent baseball card version of those with Garbage Pail Kids. Yeah, there were Beanie Babies. The yo-yo was one at one point. And even before skateboarding became what it is today, it was another one of these just little crazes that's why people thought skateboarding was something that was just going to be a fad or a trend. It happens periodically. And the thing about it is there are people that definitely kind of get into them, but it's not just, these specific type of people. It's regular people who, and it might not be all of them, but or they'll get into every craze, but it's regular people who then are like, oh no, I really want one of these. And they will line up to, at some point in the morning or, some ridiculous amount of time to get one of these products. I used to line up for movies that I really wanted to see until the last movie that broke my heart, which was Star Wars: The Phantom Menace. And that was the last time I stood in line for what essentially, it's a different type of product, but that was the last time I engaged in that type of behavior, because I'm like, I can wait for this shit. I don't even care how bad I want to see it. I don't need to stand in the line for it. When was the last time you guys ever stood in line for something, whether it's a product or what is Spoolie D doing? Oh, I guess he's got a cramp.
Maybe the early 90s. Remember back before you could buy tickets online, you had to go stand in line to get concert tickets?
Yeah.
So I remember going to, what was it? The Warehouse Records over on Maori. Mm-hmm. They sold Bass tickets or whatever it was back in the day. And I remember camping out overnight. My parents let me do that for like Depeche Mode tickets and to see The Cure. Mm-hmm. And it didn't fucking matter because every time I camped out, I still got lawn at the shoreline. It's like it was idiotic. You would have gotten lawn if you had just waited and ordered tickets over the phone. So that's the last time I think I can remember lining up for something.
I think let's all have an atheist prayer for Spoolie's thigh or his quadricep or not quite. What are
my hammy, bro?
Your hamstring. Yes.
This is a good time to bring up his upside down camera legs with socks.
Oh yeah, that's been two people have mentioned in messages to me, or that they thought Spoolie's arms were upside down legs wearing socks. Jason, when was the last time you stood in line for anything on a level, whether it's a product or just
It was the Nintendo Wii.
Ooh,
video game system.
That's product praise right there.
Because Nintendo were very clever, and I'm firmly convinced that they engineered their product crazes by drip feeding small numbers of the console into stores so that people were unable to get this thing that was, everybody kind of wanted one. I waited a good long time before I actually was willing to wait in line. So the line I waited in wasn't too terribly long, but I did show up before the store opened in order to get one because I looked at a website that said, this store is supposed to get this many consoles in stock at this time. And so I showed up and they had plenty because I waited long enough to where the low stock was actually no longer a problem. I don't know. I had a good time with it, so I feel like it was worth it. It wasn't, just like a little tchotchke or a useless product that looked neat or something. It was actually a video game system that I used quite a bit. So
the bag gets used and a cup gets used.
But whatever, to each their own. But you should. I mean, the size of these bags, you'd be shocked at how tiny they are and how.
I've seen them. I was in a Trader Joe's kind of when it was happening. I knew that there were people asking about the bags, and then I kind of picked up on it. Oh, these are a thing. But I think they tend to happen during times, I think, of strife where like there's stuff going on in the culture that people are just like, I don't want to think about that. I don't want to think about that. Ooh, these bags. In search of, very much like an addict, in search of trying to fill this emptiness that they're feeling with something to give them just the dopamine that exists, that to just sort of feel like, I have one.
Well, do any of you know when Michael Jordan retired?
Not exactly.
Why are you asking?
Because the guy's been retired for what? I'm guessing 20 years, maybe. I don't know, but people line up like crazy for his shoes.
Yeah.
When they come out, and in my opinion, they're ugly as fuck. Like those Nike shoes with the plastic shit all on them, and like I don't. That's one of the ones where I genuinely don't get it either.
They made a movie about it. Air, the movie Air documents the whole how that even happened. The underdog sport department that was very small in the Nike corporation become this huge monolith, and just if you watch it, that's literally the story they're telling is like, oh, they're the Rocky of corporations, and they're not at all.
Look what happened to Under Armour. They got Steph Curry, and the only reason they got Steph Curry is when Nike tried to recruit Steph Curry, they didn't change the slide deck, and it still had Kevin Durant's name on it. When they were trying to recruit him, he was insulted.
That sounded like a lot of SoundCloud rapper talk there for a second. I didn't understand a word of what that was.
You didn't?
Under Armour? What's Under Armour?
Under Armour's it's an athletic brand that Steph Curry. It's the Steph Curry shoe brand.
Oh,
they only exist because they're only popular and best selling because of Steph Curry. And the only reason Steph Curry went to Under Armour is because Nike was lazy and they didn't put in the effort to recruit him. They had Kevin Durant's name still on the material, which is basically the plot of Rocky 3.
Oh, okay. Got it. Well, Nike, again, the Air Jordan, as was pointed out, Jordan's been retired for a long time, and yet his shoes sell just as much, if not more, than they ever did.
He's still an owner. He was the owner of the Charlotte Bobcats, and I got lost track of what they might have turned into the New Orleans Pelicans. But he was about as bad at owning a basketball team as he was at baseball.
I mean, Tony Hawk is, he was very much a lot of the face of skateboarding, and yet I don't know if any of the products. Tony Hawk Pro Skater only went up to number 4. I think they made some other games after that, but I don't think there's a product that encapsulates an athlete in the same way that has continued to be on the level of a regular product craze, as we've been describing. Like his shoes are the bags for shoe collectors. And then if you get into even further, I want to say even the deepest heroin level of I don't want to even say it's so much product crazes, but hoarding probably satisfies some of this same urge. People that just can't compulsively fill their house with stuff. But if you try to take it out of there, they're like, no, don't take that. These are precious old newspapers. They mean something to me. And you try doing that and they'll react, pretty much like an addict.
My friend's mom was a hoarder, and what was funny is when she died, she had this house in Southern California, and it was a hoarder house, right? And I was saying, well, you can flip it. If you just throw some paint and some flooring on it, it should be fine, And he was like, oh no, the floors are perfectly preserved because they were completely covered in eBay boxes, floor to ceiling. So the floors were in immaculate shape.
Spoolie, I mean, we got a little thing. Did you ever stand in line for anything?
No. I really haven't. I mean, not since maybe I can't remember the last time. I just don't want anything that badly, other than groceries, or during COVID, grocery lines were pretty intense. But no, other than the DMV. But I don't think that really counts. It's kind of like a government service. You have to go. But no, that's kind of part of the calculus. If I need to wait in a line to get into somewhere, I'm just not going to do it. I mean, I wait in the TSA line twice a month. That's enough. I get my thrill that way.
Line to travel. So.
Yeah, I mean, think about it. You're playing the most elaborate game of Simon Says, the TSA line. So you get a lot out of that. You get to wait in a long, winding line. You get to take your shoes off. They don't make you take your bag of toiletries out anymore. I didn't realize that. Sometimes they open up the metal detector. Sometimes they make you stay in the Rappy scan. Sometimes you take your stuff out and they're like, hey, don't take it out. Put it back in. And so, you just got to keep you on your toes.
Well, all right. I think we've discussed product crazes a little bit, and it seems to be a god of sorts, the god of products. All right. Well, let's move on to our music portion of the show. We have a song selected by Spoolie D.
All right. So I was in San Francisco, and I was in a rent-a-car listening to, I think it was Live on a 5, actually. And I hear this, like, version of We Didn't Start the Fire, because this thing was, like, omnipresent in the 90s. And I remember hearing it and thinking, like, well, I didn't live through any of these events, so maybe I could relate better, once, if I were, like, someone who'd lived through these events, maybe the song would be more meaningful. And now that they remade this to update it from, like, the 90s through today, kind of like KZR, they basically proved my hypothesis completely incorrect. So science once again prevailed. This is god awful. It's like if you're like, what the hell is even this genre? Like the genre of just listing shit out, right? You guys have probably never heard this song, but there's a Neil Diamond song called "Done Too Soon." And he just randomly like names out a bunch of famous people that died early, and then he goes into this chorus. Then there's which we're all familiar with. It's the end of the world as we know it, and I feel fine. Which again is just like listing a bunch of shit out, like no effort put into the verse, and then like a catchy hook, right? And then there's the version of this where you're just naming places. So there's like Beach Boys, California Girls, and then Huey Lewis's Heart of Rock and Roll. And so they're not even naming things; they're just like naming locations, right? So this is that, except they were too lazy to even like write their own vehicle to start listing shit out, or even the concept. So it's pretty bad. Like they stole Billy Joel's song. They made up this updated list. And then if you notice, sometimes they even just like stole shit from Billy Joel, like straight away. Or sorry, they made a tribute to him. They brought back Suez without the trouble. And then they really, they really wanted to go back to that JFK blown away thing. So they like forced in that former Japanese prime minister who got shot, which I'm sure most of you don't remember. I remember this because, my people. Yeah, it's pretty bad. So they managed to make it worse. I think at the end of this all, I still don't know what the trouble in the Congo was Billy Joel was referring to. Oh, I want to say something nice about this song. That line, Kurt Cobain, Pokemon, that's a solid line. That, of all of them messed it up. And Kurt Cobain, Pokemon is a way better band name than Fall Out Boy.
Nathan, your thoughts on the song?
It was just word salad. I feel like I had a hard time sort of locking into this song, other than like I played the version on YouTube that showed the lyrics. And I think the part that really stuck out to me was they somehow managed to wedge in nuclear accident Fukushima, Japan into this song in a way that actually kind of flowed with the rest of the song. And I couldn't repeat it in a way how they said it, but I was like, wow, that was really a lot to say, but they somehow got it in there. I think with about a minute left in this song, I got up because my tea kettle was boiling and I took care of my tea and let the rest of the song play. So I checked out like a couple of minutes into the song. I couldn't make it all the way through. I thought it was pretty bad. I don't know. I can see what they're going for there. And it's not the worst song I've ever heard, but I didn't care for it all that much.
Word. All right. So Nate tapped out. Art Lord, your thoughts on the song?
I might be just prejudiced against contemporary culture, but it felt to me like the Fall Out Boy version was just a bunch of bullshit strung together, whereas it's supposed to be like notable news or whatever, notable historical events, but they're just like naming a bunch of shit. Like, why does Metroid come up? I don't understand why they bring up Metroid, for one thing, which is, an amazing video game, sure, but it was an amazing video game in like what 86 or 87 or whatever. I don't understand how they thought that was like notable news or newsworthy or something. But then I looked at the original lyrics and it's basically he's just naming a lot of names, but they're all historical figures, of some import
and events.
But basically, the Fall Out Boy version, it just felt like a bunch of memes and shit. They were just like listing memes, whereas the original was trying to list political events and names that were actually historically important. And then also the live video, like where they're playing at the MTV Video Music Awards or whatever. Like, why are they wearing those like sub Talking Heads suits? Like, I don't understand. Like they didn't even like go far enough to commit to getting giant suits made. They like just kind of wore like slightly comically oversized suits, and like I don't know, it just seemed like a big waste of time, like a big frivolous dumb thing. I don't like the original song. I don't have any like feelings of like protectiveness about it or anything, but it just seemed like a bigger, dumber version of the original.
Yeah, this was definitely a song I wasn't a fan of. I think it was in the early 90s. It somehow was a hit. And again, it was this formula of the list of things. I was able to listen to the whole song, as just sort of annoying as it was to listen to, and reading the lyrics. And then I went back to the original to be like, yeah, what the formula seemed to be. And it seemed like whatever this fire is that we didn't start, it seemed to be rooted in more listing of subjects and people that helped create a fire. And then later, the Fall Out Boy version, it was the listing of, like, I want to say almost like trending topics since the 90s until now. But maybe they contributed to a fire of sorts. You know what's weird is that song was, yeah, it seemed like it was hokey even when it was contemporary. And then Fall Out Boy, I haven't really listened to too much Fall Out Boy. I imagine they're better than Alien Ant Farm, but I mean, they're a three word named band. So, but in the topic of these list songs, there is one artist who has done it to an incredibly well, and I don't expect any of you, maybe Nate will know what I'm talking about. The Jizza, the genius. It's a formula to at least one song on each album. I think I know of at least a couple. If you listen to his first album, Liquid Swords, he has an amazing track called Labels on there, where what he does is he wraps all of the hip-hop labels in a song and does so in a seamless way. The song's dope. And then you go back and try and listen to how he incorporates all of these hip-hop labels into the lyrics. And he did another one song of that formula on, I believe, Legend of the Liquid Swords, and that one's called Fame, where he wraps the names of celebrities into the fabric of the thing, but he uses them in a way where the whole verse makes sense, and he's just using wordplay with the names of, in the first case, the labels, and in the second case, in the names of celebrities. It's a list formula, but he does so in a much better way. And the songs are good. I don't mind the REM song, but yeah, it is this formula of just sort of, hey, look what I can rhyme out of stuff that you might know about and some you might not. And as a formula, it was made for an annoying song in Billy Joel's version, and in Fall Out Boy's case, it's like a remake of a movie you didn't like. It's like if somebody remade Ishtar. You know, and I was like, and not like, I didn't think it was a terrible movie. I don't even remember much about it. I didn't even watch the whole movie, but I remember people saying it was terrible, and I'm like, nah, it's just a comedy of guys laughing at their own jokes. I don't think it was that bad. I liked some comedies like that.
The blind camel scene was awesome.
I'm sure it was, but at the same time, I'm like, nobody's, in this age of remakes and reboots, nobody's itching to make Ishtar, and so that's kind of what I felt it was on par with this. We didn't start the fire kind of.
Do any of you remember the NXS song called Mediate?
Yes.
Okay, so it's an NXS song, and they made a video for it, and it's just Michael Hutchence standing there the whole video holding signs of the lyrics. And I'll read you some of the lyrics. It's hallucinate, desegregate, mediate, alleviate, try not to hate, love your mate. It's all this faux political sounding shit, and he just has signs that he throws that have all the lyrics. And that's one of the few songs I can think of that's just word salad crap that, you're being presented with on screen.
Was that an homage to a Bob? Was that a takeoff on a Bob Dylan video?
I have no idea.
Art Lord says yes.
Art Lord.
Okay. I don't know the source material, man.
Yeah, that's right. No, I do remember something where Bob Dylan was throwing signs of, it was listing off shit. I don't know what it was, but
he's like Yeah, Bob, I'm allergic to Bob Dylan, so like anytime any sort of Bob Dylan is present, I'm acutely aware of it. I'd be remiss to mention this, Dave, but in that Fall Out Boy song, they mentioned both electric cars and the Texas electric grid collapsing. Thought that was pretty interesting.
The thing that I was kind of noticing that what they were listing off the timeline, because I was like, when was the song made? And they were listing off stuff that was still in the late '90s
Mhm.
and then stuff from the 2000s, and then they referenced more recent stuff, and then I'm like, oh, so then and this song came out a year ago because they mentioned QAnon, they mentioned a few other things, and so then I was like, well, is the logic the same as Billy Joel's? And then when I went back to Billy Joel's song, the time frame of the references for the list of stuff, Fall Out Boy just kind of, I think they didn't read too much into the formula beyond like just list stuff people have heard of from this time window, whereas I think Billy Joel's kind of selection had something to do a little bit with whatever contributed to this fire. Fall Out Boy was more or less listing product crazes and along with events and just stuff.
And Michael Jordan twice for no good reason.
Well, he's Michael Jordan. I mean, he's
So is the conceit of the song that humanity has always sucked and the current shit we're going through now is no change from what's always been happening? Is that
it's not our fault?
The takeaway? Okay, it's not our fault.
That's kind of what it sounds. It's a song all about denial and lack of accountability in my mind.
I don't know.
It's almost like musical finger pointing.
Yeah. I mean, that's something you love.
I think it's something. I think it's both, right? It's like we didn't start it, and no matter what you do, it's going to keep burning. It's kind of like it's kind of like inevitability. It's like a musical Calvinism. There's nothing you can do. You're predetermined to just keep this shit burning.
It's strange though that Billy Joel managed in the '90s to make a song that felt like it belonged better in the '80s, even at that time. Like Billy Joel has had a real knack for making popular stuff that feels stale right when it comes out.
Like for the longest time, it was like doo-wop.
I do like a couple Billy Joel songs, and he's definitely a talented guy. He's kind of a prick, from what I understand, to his band.
Didn't your guitar teacher say that he like ripped off some of his songs?
Yeah, well, I don't know if it's rumor or whatever, but that anybody's submitting ideas for taking some of those and just copywriting them himself and incorporating them into new songs, and so he was sued for stealing.
And I always thought, when I heard this song, I always thought about what that teacher said, because this sounds exactly like someone desperate to like make a hit, and it sounds nothing like his other music.
And it was at a time when he was probably really trying to get back into the public eye more.
Yeah, I don't think he had any hits for a long time before this thing came out, and then
it reeks of the possibility he could have stolen.
So this came out in '89, or the original came out in '89, so that was sort of the end of peak Billy Joel, I guess.
He was recognizing there was a fire, and that we didn't start it. He was definitely trying to aim for an epic, like, come on, everybody sing along, and nobody. You're like, nah, you're good. It's a long list there.
Just play Uptown Girl again. Everyone loves that. Come on.
All right. Well, cool. I think we can definitely say that this fire is put out. We put this fire to rest. Fall Out Boy, bad idea, bad choice, and you made a bad song worse.
Bad band name too.
Yeah, so I would throw this in our terrible cover category. Yeah,
I think so. But the source material was shit too. So
that's what I'm saying. It's you just, why do this, Fall Out Boy? You really fell out. All right. Cool. Well, we had a nice, calm episode. Not a lot of heated emotion.
Want to talk about abortion?
No, I'm good, man. Okay. I think that was God's work and the lack of. All right. Well, that concludes our discussion this week. Hope you enjoyed the episode. If you didn't, well, we'll try again next time. But we enjoyed it. It was good talking with you fellas. And thanks. We do need to get a guest that's a woman perspective one of these days. So if you guys think of any candidates who you think would be fun to talk in our little chats, drop us a line. Putting that out there just to get a female perspective, because we're very, very man.
Very man. Yes.
Very man.
Very man. I said male, but yeah, it's very man. I like very man better. You're the art lord.
That's what I thought. I thought you said very man.
Your words are better. Your words are choicier.
Change your screen name to Very Man. Episode 1, you were going on and on about how heterosexual you were.
Oh, Very Man Dave. I should be Man Dave.
Man Dave.
Yeah, I don't change my name. That's for you guys. All right. So, with that being said, want to thank everybody. Jason the Art Lord, No Puatix Nate, Spoolie D. Thank you for joining us at Meaningful Times with Friends, and we'll see you next time. And have a great week, everybody. Peace.